Hey everyone, we're back for another workout of the day. Today is an AMRAP. It's 20 minutes, so it's as many rounds as possible in 20 minutes. It's called Cucumber Melon, and if you were born in the 70s or 80s, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I bet you smell that smell right now when I said those words. Okay, so it is 20 renegade rows, 20 sit-ups, 20 kettlebell swings, and 20 goblet squats. So we're gonna do all of those, we're gonna go through all of those movements and the modifications, and then you can get started. So our first movement is gonna be our renegade row. So you're gonna need 2 dumbbells for this. Let's just go over the form first. So what we want to do is we want to have a nice wide stance. So I mean it's natural to be in that push-up stance, but we want to go wide, and it might feel a little weird and uncomfortable, but the point is for that is that we have a nice stable base, so we're not moving around, because the goal here is to not move our body at all, only our arms. So we want our arms set up right underneath our shoulders. Our hands are right underneath our shoulders. We don't want our butt up, and we don't want it sagging down. We want a nice strong base, so we really need to squeeze those abs and our glutes, right? So this is essentially, it seems like an arm exercise, but it's actually a full body exercise. So you should be engaging all of your muscles in this, and that's what's going to keep you from moving from side to side when you have the weights. So I will just show you sideways first. You're going to be in this position. You're going to have your dumbbells, and you're going to pull, and you don't want to be twisting, right? You want to be staying, and your arms are only going to come to about 90 degrees angle. There's no need to pull and get crazy. So let's do it facing you real quick so you can see what it looks like facing you. So you're going to just come up, and you're going to be switching and squeezing that whole time. And again, we don't want any movement with the body. So if you start to feel yourself rocking back and forth, pay attention to that, because I notice a lot of people don't feel themselves or notice because they're so focused on lifting the weight. I'd rather you do less weight and be able to keep everything tight and engaged than try to struggle with the weight, because again, we want your whole body to benefit from this exercise. So modifications, you can do shoulder taps instead. So again, you're going to have that wide base. You might not need as wide with those legs. And again, the goal here is not to move your body at all, just your hands. For a little resistance, you can also use a band. So you can march the band up in that same position. Okay, sit-ups, we all know how to do a sit-up, I feel like, I hope. Okay, so here again, we want to use our core, our abs, to lift ourselves off the ground. So we don't want our butt to ever come off the ground. We want to really squeeze and use the core to come up. You're going to come up and touch your toes. If you're using that core, your feet are less likely to come off the ground. So if you find yourself trying to sit up and your feet are coming off the ground, it's just, we got to work on that core strength. Okay, so modifications just to the knees here, or you can do crunches to the shins. Never put your hands behind your head. You're just going to strain that neck. It's unnecessary. The next movement is going to be our kettlebell swing. So just quickly go over the form to make sure you're doing it right. I see these done wrong more than I would like. Okay, so we want to be slightly wider than hip width apart, our toes probably about slightly pointed outward. We want to come back. We want to come back and hinge at the hips. So we're hinging at the hips and bringing our butt back, right? Our chest is going to come forward as we do that in one nice straight line. We want to keep our back straight and my knees are slightly bent here. I'm not straight and I'm not bent, right? So they're just slightly bent as I come back, and I'm going to bring my arms back so that the outside of my wrist is touching the inside of my thigh. If you find yourself touching the inside of your thigh anywhere up here, it's wrong. So it's wrong because what you're probably doing, right, is you're probably dipping instead of coming back. You're probably dipping down into a squat. We don't want any squats here. We love squats. Squats are the best, right? But we don't want to be doing a squat when we're kettlebell swinging. So we're going to just come back with slight. So if you find, like I said, if you find yourself squatting down, fix that, really push and drive back with those hips, not down. The other thing I see is coming down too far. That's where you're going to start feeling a lot of, in both ways. If you're squatting, if you're coming down too far, you're going to feel a lot of it in your lower back, right? So if you start to feel pain in this movement, it's time to check that form. How do you check the form? You can videotape yourself, or you can look in a mirror and make sure you're doing it correctly. Check where you're hitting the inside of your thighs. Is it the outside of the wrists? Is your chest up? Are you loose when you come down? We want to make sure our back is straight. And we're going to use that hip drive to drive the weight upward. So what we're not doing is we're not pulling the weight up. So that's another thing. If you're trying to pull that weight up, it's going to be quite impossible, and you're going to start feeling strain in weird places. So another thing not to do. So this is what it's going to look like with the kettlebell. You're going to come back, you're going to come down, and you're going to come to about eye height, and you're going to squeeze those glutes at the top. Really drive forward with those hips. It's gonna get you where you want to go. If you don't have a kettlebell but you have a dumbbell, you can use a dumbbell. And modifications would just be weights, like a lighter weight. But challenge yourself, because I see so many people. Oh, it drives me crazy. I see all these women pick up like 5-pound kettlebells, which are the tiniest little kettlebells you ever see. It looks like a child kettlebell. It probably should only be used for a child. You are stronger than you think, ladies. Use those legs to get that up. Challenge yourself, but don't hurt yourself. Another thing you can do is use a band. So step inside that band. You're going to pull it through your legs. You're going to hold on. You're going to bring it back just as you did with the kettlebell. And you're just going to pull, keeping that bag back nice and straight. Okay, last movement here is going to be our kettlebell swing. We just did kettlebell swings. Goblet squat. We're going to do a goblet squat. So, slightly hip width apart with our feet. Our toes are slightly pointed outward. We are going to come down with our knees out, not forward, not in, right? We want to go out with our knees. That's going to ensure that our feet are staying flat on the ground and that we're able to come up and down in a straight line. So we want to come down to at least parallel, which is about here, right? If you want to challenge yourself, if you're flexible enough, get below parallel. I invite you to do that. But if you find yourself rolling up onto the balls of your feet, right? We want to make sure, again, that we're coming out and our toes are not pointed forward, because once they're pointed forward, our knees are going to go where our toes are, right? So our knees are going to come forward, and it's going to be a natural rock. Like, it's going to be almost impossible to keep your feet flat on the ground if you're moving forward like that. So go down as low as you can, as long as your feet are flat on the ground. Really drive those knees outward. Now, if we're adding weight here, so the modification would just be air squats, just like that. But if we're adding weight, we want to be extra cognizant of our form, because now we're adding a little bit of heavier stuff to this. So now we really need to pay attention also to that upper body here. I mean, we should always pay attention to the upper body, but just even more with the weight. We really want to like squeeze those abs. We want to make sure that our back is nice and straight, really coming up and down in a straight line. So we're going to grab that dumbbell and we're going to come up and down. Now, the other thing you can do here is you can use a box or a bench. So this box is a little bit higher. So you can just come to the edge of the box or to the bench. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to come down and sit and swing and do some weird fun swinging thing, right? We really want to use our legs for this. So make sure the cue here would be to pull your knees back and your hips forward at the same time. So your knees are coming back, hips drive forward. And this is, if you think of it that way, it's going to make you stand up with just your legs, not that swing. You can do that with or without a weight. We can also use a band to add some resistance. So we can do it a few ways, but we'll just do it behind the back here. So we're going to just rest it on our shoulders, keeping our shoulders, don't let it pull you forward, keeping everything straight, coming down into that squat and so forth. Okay, so that is the workout. You're going to do as many rounds possible in 20 minutes of all those movements. Good luck.